Welcome to Sexually Charged Radio. I'm one of your 4 co-hosts today. I'm Ruthie, and I'm joined by...
Thomas.
Sophie.
Sheila.
And we have not gone around a bit and talked about pronouns this time. So I use the pronoun they because I am genderqueer non-binary, so I don't use she at all. Thomas, do you feel like talking about pronouns?
Yeah, of course. I always like talking about pronouns. I'm using the pronouns he or they, and that's part of my process of trying to understand my gender and gender identity, and what it looks like to me right now.
Yay. Do either of you feel like talking about your pronouns?
I just identify she or her. It's
Fantastic.
good for me.
Great.
Yeah, same for me.
Thanks. Thanks, both of you. So we're going to be talking about strip clubs and strippers and going to strip clubs and strip for this particular episode. And so if you were going to create a strip club and it had like some sort of theme, like sometimes restaurants are like, oh, we're an Irish pub or something like that, what would be the theme of the decor for your strip club? It doesn't mean that all the strippers would always act that way, but like the tone of like the building and the aesthetic of the decor. Like I once went to an all vegan restaurant strip club in Portland, Oregon, because there the rules around like when you can get a strip club license have to do with whether or not you serve food. It's easier, something like that. So the restaurant was a vegan restaurant, and they added a stripper area to it later. So there's a particular aesthetic of being a bit counterculture and edgy and vegan and tattoos and stuff like that. So that's one example. Thomas, you look like you're thinking really hard. Are you ready?
I mean, there are just so many ideas that are going through my head.
Yeah, I haven't made my own answer up yet. I just got the question. I got so excited by the question, I forgot to think of my answer before I asked it.
I think my theme would be library.
Oh.
So it would have this like classy,
take my money.
like wood decor. Like there would be books on the shelves there, but they would look like they're really like the fancy old books. But when you like open them, they'd be like not.
So they'd be the hardcover bound type books that like feel really good in the hand. I feel like there's so many puns that have been said, by the way, since you started talking about a lot of wood. But you'd open it up and it would be modern books, smutty books. What would it be?
It would be a mix. So you wouldn't know. You'd have to open it up to see, is this going to be like Oliver Twist, or is it going to be Oliver Twisted? And
Nice. So you think people will actually open the books at the strip club?
Well, because, it's going to be a classy kind of like high back chair.
Yeah.
You have your cigar area. You've got the little globe.
Cigars, yeah.
Every once in a while, with a little side table and so it has that, but then it also has like just, the traditional areas of a stage and a food area and,
I definitely open the books.
Yeah.
I want to go now. Let's go.
Right? Okay, good. I think that you just won somehow, even though we haven't given it yet. Does anyone else have a thought on what they would do?
I'm still trying to pick. I've just so many. Well, the first thing that comes to my mind is just this whole Middle Eastern aesthetic. I don't know. It could be a bias because I'm half Middle Eastern, but I like like the music. It's like nice chill vibes and not necessarily belly dancers, but possibly maybe. I don't know. Just and I like how you like lounge on the floor and it's super chill and everything. There's like plush pillows and plush tables and the hookah and stuff like that.
Oh my gosh, that sounds really good too. I wonder if like we need to open a complex where there's just a different big room of a different theme for each of our things.
We call it Wonderland.
I don't have an answer yet. I should have came up with one. I feel like I'm trying to think of my favorite ones that I've attended before, and a lot of them didn't have themes, and I was just looking for things like not super scary in the wrong way or something like that. I'd probably end up with a dungeon theme sort of thing because that's just kind of my brand. Yeah. I don't know. Did you have one, or are you just going to patronize ours?
Well, okay, so the library, this is really cheesy, but the library kind of made me think of like the game Clue.
Yes.
So yeah, maybe something along those lines.
That's fun. Yeah. Nice. Okay, I'll keep thinking of mine. Maybe I'll think of something better than my crappy.
Oh my gosh, because each of the rooms could be like, oh, this is the kitchen, and this is the study, and here's the billiard room, and all the possibilities about those different, like, oh.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So here's what's in the back of my mind, and maybe you can help me develop this, or in the back of your mind you can think of something to do with this later. But I went to the Museum of Sex in New York City pretty recently, and I've been a bunch of times. It's super, super fun. Have you been?
That's on my bucket list.
It's really good. I took tons of pictures you can look at if you want to see all the videos. They had, I don't know if it's a temporary or an always thing there, but they had a giant bouncy castle that was full of huge boobs.
I've seen.
And there's a video of like the 5 of us, which by the way, you only get 2 minutes in there, but we were exhausted after about 30 seconds because we were just throwing ourselves around off the walls and the floor. I don't know how you turn that into a stripper experience, but I just want to say that we had a great time for our 2 minutes in there. And if there's a way to put that into like something like that in a strip club, I think that would be good. Also, there might be serious injuries occurring, but it was really fun. It was really fun. Okay.
It could be a ball pit too.
Yeah, well, I have cleanliness issues with ball pits because I read a study about that. But anyway, yes, a ball pit could be fun and wrinkly. So we're going to be talking about strip clubs. And what's the first thing that comes to mind when you think about a strip club or going to a strip club? Or who here has been to a strip club? Verbal raise of hands. Many times. Thomas?
I've been there. Yeah.
And you too?
I unfortunately have not. That is another thing on my bucket list and / things I'm going to consensually ask my roommates to participate in with me.
Fun.
Yes, I have not either.
And Ruthie?
All the time. No, not all the time. I've been several times per year for most of my adult life, but usually when I'm traveling. And funny enough, usually these days it's when I'm going to a conference full of therapists, and some of them have never been and they want to go, and I make like an extracurricular activity out of it. And we all get in a car or two together, and I talk them through the process of like how you pay at the door if you have to, and you know who you tip and who you don't tip, and that you can't sit by the stage unless you're tipping regularly for every song, for every dancer, whether they're your favorite dancer or not. So I kind of have been doing these instructional trips to strip clubs instead of like just for my enjoyment trips for most, but not all lately. But many people go to them when they travel. That's a really common thing to go to that when you go to conferences and stuff. Yeah. Thomas, tell us about your strip club experience.
Yeah, I frequented a number of locations, mostly when I'm traveling too, I think. That's also pretty common. Typically it's always been like with groups of friends and like sort of a social outing and just kind of like, with other sex researchers a lot of the time. Just going to have a good time and really like celebrate like the joy of sexuality. And I think like a lot of times I've talked to other people and they're like, well, why do you talk about this? That's something you should just keep private. I'm like,
you should be ashamed, Thomas. You should be ashamed.
And I'm just like, no, like it's, it's like going to the movies or going bowling. Like it's an outing one can do, like, because that's just what you're interested in doing right there. And it doesn't have to be a sexual experience for you in going there. It can also just be like, this is like a fun environment where
it's a bit of a party.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or at least it can be, depending on the club you go to. It's a legit form of entertainment and a legit form of employment. Absolutely. And when we stigmatize one, we stigmatize the other for sure. I've also been with partners and people that I'm dating for sexy date times, or because we, want to get laid with each other later in the evening, and this is how we get the party started earlier, and we both, build up some good sexual energy and then take it home. I have not had, oh, no, that's a lie. I have had very few sexual experiences in strip clubs, but I know that some people go specifically for sexual experiences in strip clubs, which is not always an option and not always available, but does exist in some places legally or not. So what do we think of when we think of going to a strip club? Like, is it anxiety? I still get anxious about it, even though I've been a lot. I get like really kind of nervous and anxious, and also I get nervous about spending a lot of money. What comes to mind for everybody else? If you can imagine it. Yeah.
Well, the two things, like, there's a divider in my head because there's the first things I think about stereotypes, and then there's my personal thoughts. So when you hear strip club, automatically my head goes, oh, it's nasty, it's dirty, it's raunchy, and oh, this, that. But
in bad ways or good ways?
both.
Okay.
But society has, from what I've seen, what I've experienced, and even hearing from my parents or other people, they say raunchy in like dirty, bad way. Mm-hmm. But I know myself that it's a place for people to go to have fun, and it's a place where it's an art form too. I think of it like, do you see what they do?
That's some athletic stuff.
I look at it and I say, I wish. And I also connect with the feeling anxious, and I think maybe that's what has stopped me from going is, as a woman, I feel that I'm going to be looked at. If I go to like a woman strip club, I feel that they'll like look down on me, or just, again, because it's the whole like oriented towards male identifying, right?
Some strip clubs with female dancers or feminine dancers do not allow female customers.
Oh, see, that's not something I did. That's something
when I lived
know.
in the southeastern United States, that was not an unusual rule. You could only go if you were a woman if you were accompanied by a man.
Interesting. I feel like we're back a few years.
Well, there's a lot of things back a few years down there, but anyway.
But yeah.
What runs through your mind when you think about strip clubs or going to one?
I think about money. I think about,
yes.
I'm really daunted by the amount of money involved.
And it's serious cash to go to these things.
Yeah. I think that's another thing.
And I also think about, I feel a little bit of insecurity as a woman entering a strip club. I just wonder, who's going to be, even though I know people are going to be looking at them, there's still a part of me that as a woman wonders whether people are going to be judging my body against the body of these other women.
Yeah.
So that goes through my head too.
It's a place for commodified objectification based on gender, regardless of the gender of the dancers who are there. And that can definitely have a lot of implications for people in the audience, right? Like, I will get intimidated when I'm going to ones with female dancers because I think about my stereotypes of what kind of men are going there and if they are safe men in a group, and now they're in a sexual atmosphere. And I can only think of one or two situations in which male patrons were uncool to me, but actually other guys, before I even had a chance to say knock it off, other guys policed them for me. But I still think about that, right?
Yeah, and I mean, I've had similar experiences where there are certain environments that you just don't read as safe when you're there, and you're just like, okay, I'm more conscious of who I'm with, and if they go to the bathroom, I keep an eye on like how long they're gone, and I keep an eye on that hallway about who else is going down that hallway, and when they come, my friend comes back. I think about it when I go to the washroom. It's like, okay, who knows that I'm going there? How long do I spend away? Like, I don't get distracted. It's like, I'm going to come back so my friends know that I'm like there and back, and they're not, because sometimes, there are substances being used in a lot of establishments. People are hyper-sexualized, and their emotions are elevated, and people don't always make the best decisions when their hormones are raging, and they're more willing to take some risky behaviors.
Which is not just strip clubs, because I've had more problems with all those things that you're talking about just at like bar nights or dance clubs and things like that. I've had many more assault experiences there than I have at any strip clubs. So, which is not to say that strip clubs are innately safe. I don't know what's safer and what's not safer, but that environment, I think, goes for a lot of different kind of, evening social activity group venues with alcohol kind of things, or with sexual tension kind of things.
Yeah, but I mean, I've also had some like really wonderful experiences too, and I think it's really important to like not just be the negative, but saying like there have been some spaces that have been like super reaffirming of identities, and I was traveling recently and went with friends to a strip club, and it was male strippers, and it didn't matter who was in the audience. They gave equal attention to everyone in the audience. There was just like a willingness to like have conversations with you and sit down, and like if you were there having a drink, then they would just kind of come and talk with you and about life and other things as well. And I think that side of strip clubs doesn't get talked about nearly enough as well, of like the human factor, that these are people who, yes, they're working and they're in a sexualized industry, but they're still humans.
Yeah, they're at work, they're at their job, and I think about the importance of having a place that you can go where you feel included in sexual energy and atmosphere. And you may not have partners or social circles that give you that, or give you enough of that, or give you the type of that you're looking for. But if you have the financial ability to go, and different strip clubs kind of have different prices, they all cost money, but some are more expensive than others, then you can be in a place where, you know, you're exchanging money for being able to be included in sexual energy, and like, that's okay. That's okay. I think, we should stop and do our station identification break. Thomas, would you like to?
Sure. So, in case you've forgotten by now, you're listening to Sexually Charged Radio at 93.3 FM in the Guelph, Ontario region, or maybe you're listening to us at cfru.ca, or you're listening to us on YouTube by searching Sexually Charged Radio. And any of those avenues are great ways to listen to us or our past episodes. And if you're liking what you're listening to, how can you get in touch with us, Ruthie?
You can drop us an email at AskSC, which is the initials for Sexually Charged, at uoguelph, guelph.ca. And the great folks from Student Wellness over in Student Affairs here at the University of Guelph will receive that email, forward some of those on to us, and help us so much with the production and the posting and hosting of the show. So that's a really great collaboration to have. So I think we're norming saying everybody wants to go to a strip club. And that's not the case. Not everybody wants to go to a strip club or anything like that. Because I want to ask, what would make you feel safer or better about going to a strip club? One of them would be affordability. I don't know quite how to handle that, because that's kind of the price of the entertainment. But I'm wondering if there's other things. I mean, Thomas, you mentioned recently an experience at a strip club where you didn't feel great or safe about it. Is that something you feel like talking about more?
Yeah, I think for me, it was this idea that I was very aware of being a queer individual in it was a female strip club. I was with majority female cis.
So it's female dancers when you say female strip club, as opposed to customers.
Yeah, sorry. And so majority of the customers were what I would read as cis male, but the group I went with, overwhelmingly cis female, and very few cis males in our group. And it was just like that sense of having to be aware of others and just kind of keeping an eye, because it felt kind of gruff and rough and rawr. Not in a good way, in like an
undesirably gritty way.
And like, so when it closed and everyone was waiting for cars, I was very like cognizant of like this whole group of people who had just been in this environment now waiting outside for like taxis to come. And so I think for me, it's like what would make it better or more accessible would be like, how do we ensure that like individuals aren't just kind of sent out afterwards to kind of stand there, but there's sort of monitoring that happens, or like controlled exiting and things where I don't have to feel like I'm the one monitoring others' behaviors, like that you have staff members around who are like not like super visible, but visible enough to like just remind people that like this is a respectful environment.
Yeah, I think about environments where there's really high sexual energy and tension, where there's very like aggressive heterosexuality going on. And if it's in a place that's designated for it and it feels like there's somewhere I could turn to if something isn't working well for me, that's one thing. But then when we take it into a public space, you know, my experience of public spaces and aggressive heterosexuality or high sexual energy and tension are things like trying to navigate public transportation in a large city at night, and it's not safe for me. So it's hard for me to figure out, you know, how to think about different places and different spaces in that way. And also around queerness too, you know, and worrying about how people are going to be with that, both employees and also customers. I don't know, what's going through your minds as we're talking about this? I feel like I haven't made enough space for the two of you in this conversation.
Oh, I just like listening to you guys because you're so insightful.
Oh, thank you. Oh, that was delightful. I should check in with you more.
When you asked what would make you feel safe in environments such as this, immediately the first thing that came to my head was being with male identifying friends. And I think that also extends to going to clubs as well, because sometimes when I've had unpleasant experiences, they've just been my wall, and they just kind of block out whatever, and they're there to support me. I don't think I can say too much about being in a strip club environment just because I haven't gone. Again, fingers crossed, hoping to go. But yeah, just I like what you mentioned, Thomas, about being who's aware of where you are and being quick and making sure kind of everyone's in the same space type of thing. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's such a different experience by type of strip club too. So
Definitely.
the local strip clubs that we have here, I haven't been to the local ones in this town yet, but my understanding is they're a little more bar focused. There's not a super high cover fee to get in. And they're kind of like a place where if you're a local, you can hang out there regularly sort of thing. And it runs the range from that kind of strip club to ones where you pay a huge fee to get in the door. And that's really in order to make it a more exclusive environment, just like any nightclub where there's a very high cover. Like they want people who look a certain way, who associate with a certain kind of moneyed culture sort of situation. And that doesn't actually mean anything is safer. I sometimes wonder if it might be less safe for some of the employees there. I'm not sure. But it's a different range of things. There's different experiences. I haven't been to any that are the super duper expensive kind, but I've definitely been to some where maybe the group that I'm taking to experience a strip club is very anxious about the environment and being seen there, and they're all willing to pay more money at the door to get in. And so I've been to some of the fancier ones like Miami and stuff like that for that reason. Where I saw what I think was Justin Bieber's car with the monkey he used to have in it. But
oh my God.
Anyway, that's another story.
Can I add something?
Yeah.
I just thought of, again, with the safe thing. So, again, I would want to go with male identifying friends if I was going to a female performance strip club. But when I think about myself going to a strip club where the male performers are, I feel fine.
Yeah.
And I don't feel as hesitant than if I were to go there. And I feel like, again, it's because what's oriented for, like what society says is oriented for you. And it's, again, that's a bit, it is heteronormative, right?
Well,
Or,
if you're in an environment where you're watching men use their money to be entitled with women's bodies, which is part of going to strip clubs in that way, and I'm not condemning that. That's the agreement everybody's entering to, as long as they're respectful within those boundaries. It feels different than going to an environment where you're watching people of whatever gender doing the same with masculine bodies if you yourself do not have a masculine body.
Part of what turns me off, I mean, occasionally I do think that I want to go to a strip club, but part of what turns me off from wanting to go to a strip club is that I don't want to go with someone that I feel is there as my protector. Like that, and I don't want to feel like someone's property or any sort of, I don't want to feel like someone's property while I'm there, or feel like a damsel in distress of any kind while I'm there.
Yeah, that irritation of, oh, I'm with a guy, so I must be his property, so now you'll respect keeping your hands and words off his property when you wouldn't do that if I was by myself.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we've got a couple minutes left here. I thought maybe what would be good is, for individuals who haven't been, or maybe they've been but are still trying to figure out how to be good consumers and patrons of a strip club space. What are some recommendations that we could make that have either, are just really respectful things that we can be doing, or ways that we can make that space better for others and ourselves? Does anyone have any ideas?
Money.
What do you mean by that?
There's a lot around the money of it. So the dancers are not there to pay their rent with your smiles or your appreciation for how they look or your disrespect of their bodies. So they are there to make money. And I think we have a lot of cultural baggage around women who do a thing to make money. And so there's a lot of judgment about how that's inappropriate and they should want to be there because they want to be there and whatever. I'm sorry. If you're at your job and you're not getting paid, it's volunteerism, and they are not there as volunteers. So learning a bit about the culture of the establishment you want to go to and when and how money is spent is important. So generally having small denominations with you when you're in a public space of it, as opposed to in a back room for private dances, is important. The closer you sit to the stage, the more money you need to spend. And if you are at the stage, you are paying every dancer for every song that comes on, even if they're not your favorite dancer. If you want to go and you don't want to spend that much money, or you want to hang back a little bit, you can sit at the bar and there you will purchase beverages, alcoholic or not, and you'll tip when you purchase those beverages, but it's you're probably not spending as much. You can have one drink and have it last a while, sort of thing. If you sit in the area where if there's a restaurant where there are servers who are coming by, the servers are not the strippers, but it's still appropriate to tip them if they go and make change for you and for any drinks or anything else they buy you, and you're tipping more than you would in a restaurant. Again, with your tables, the closer you get to the bar, to the place where the dancing happens, the more. If you want to have more private experience with a dancer, they'll come and work the room between sets. And if you want them to come hang out with you, then you put money down on the table, like near them, gesture it so that they know it's for them, and they'll come and spend time with you. But social time is often paid time. So sometimes people are just hanging out socially, and the closer you are to the bar, the more they know that they're probably not going to get paid for that social time. But they're there to see who's going to make who they're going to get their good money from. Which, especially if their set on the kind of the dance area wasn't the best money, then that's going to be their private dances. So that means either a table dance, and they'll tell you what the price is for that right up front, and generally it's the duration of one song, or that means going into kind of a back room, which may have other patrons in it, but a smaller number, and the lights are dimmed, and there's like couches and stuff, and getting a lap dance and that sort of thing, which is also paid for by the song and costs a lot of money, and whatever the price is, you should tip on top of it. You can also ask what kind of touch is appropriate. As with any kind of interaction with another person's body, it's based on mutual consent and on respect. So if they tell you that, you can touch their butt, like the side of their hip or something like that, that doesn't mean you can smack it. Or that doesn't mean you can hit them with a handful of money or something like that. That could seem rude. So there's always consent and negotiation with that as you go. And recognize that the limits set by one employee or stripper are not the same as any other stripper there. So this is negotiated on a person-by-person basis. And always say thank you when somebody sets a limit with you. Thank them for telling you.
And I think it's really important. Like, it can feel uncomfortable to have some of those conversations, but it's necessary, it's important, and it's worthwhile. And these are individuals who are employees, and they want a safe and respectful work environment for themselves.
Absolutely.
So for the most part, they'd rather have an explicit conversation with you to be like, oh yeah, before we get started, let's just talk these things through in order for it to be ensured as you doing the right thing. So if you're unsure, ask.
Yeah.
Ask the bartenders, ask the bouncers, ask the dancers, ask as many people as you feel you can ask to get the information you need. So it can be enjoyable for you and it can be safe for the employees there.
Absolutely. We should probably wrap up. Any closing thoughts or anything?
Just be respectful.
Yeah, it sounds like maybe we have a field trip, maybe we don't. We shall see. And thanks for listening to Sexually Charged Radio on 93.3 FM or CFRU.ca.